bad.
What's up, what's up? Finally, I'm back. Of course, I'm your host, Ricardo Brandes, also known as Ricky Brandes, and a great episode for you today. My apologies for such a hiatus since the last episode. Sometimes life does get a little chaotic, and even though it doesn't look like it, I do struggle sometimes to balance everything, find the energy and time to do all the things I need to do and want to do. Of course, if this show was my full-time gig, it'd be much easier, but to balance all the things and my full-time job, it is difficult. But like I always remind you guys, if a small percentage of people who listen to the Ripple Effect podcast donated as little as $1 a month, I could easily do this job full time, which is the goal. And speaking of the goal of doing something you love and enjoy, today I have a guest that's on his journey to doing that. His real name is Anthony, but if you're a fan of Kill Tony, you might know him as his stage name, Tony Pepperoni. In the past, I've had a lot of comedians on, The Amazing Jonathan, Ian Baggs, Jimmy Dore, Jim Florentine, Jim Brewer. So as you know, I'm a huge fan of stand-up. And besides hanging out with Sam Tripoli on the Union of the Unwanted, I haven't had a stand-up comedian on in a long time. And when I saw Tony Pepperoni on Kill Tony, I thought he was hilarious. It was so over-the-top silly, which is some of my favorite comedy and really hard to do. So I figured, why not reach this guy before he blows up? And let's talk to him about his journey, his writing style, and everything in between. So I had Anthony on to talk about his journey from open mics to blowing up on Instagram after Kill Tony, and the whole journey on how he got on the show, everything that happened before, during, and after. So it's a fun discussion. We also talk a little bit about freedom of speech and censorship, and I'll put links in the show description to his act on Kill Tony if you guys want to look it up. And before we get into this amazing conversation, usually I remind you this is a Value for Value show. If you get any value out of these discussions, consider giving some value back, rate, review, do all those things that help fight against the algorithms that usually censor shows like these. And typically this is the part that you hear some music and then we get right into the conversation. But before we do that, I have some exciting new information for you guys. As some of you guys might know, the music you hear on the podcast is my solo project called Theory 6. It's a project that's taken a backseat to the podcast itself, but it inspired the podcast. I named the podcast after a Theory 6 song called The Ripple Effect, and making and creating music has always been super important and a huge part of my life, and I'm really excited to tell you that I have new music coming out very soon. If you follow me on social media, you might have seen some of the hints I put out there, but I've been using and messing around with artificial intelligence for many different things, thumbnails, clips, as you know, and other things, but recently I looked into generating music and writing songs using AI and seeing how easy and fast and how good some of the software is that's out there. And I've had a blast doing it. For a while now, I've abandoned the Theory 6 music project. I just have not been able to find time to record, write, and all the things that are required, especially all the things that are required in doing music alone. But now with AI and all the music and song generators you can use, it's really easy, and I'm really excited about giving you guys new tracks, and I'm excited about being musically creative again. I'm going to eventually write some new lyrics, but I have some unused lyrics and some old lyrics that I'm going to put to new music, and that's what you're going to hear at the end of this podcast. It's going to be a new Theory 6 song. You'll be the first ones to hear it, and eventually it'll be on a new EP called The Artificial Ripple. My last EP was called The Ripple Effect. And I figured because I'm using AI to write the new music, why not call it The Artificial Ripple? Even though I'm not the one singing and we're using AI to create the vocals, hopefully it's as passionate as I meant them to be, because these are songs that are really dear and near to my heart. These are songs that I wrote during numerous different parts of my life journey, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of personal thoughts and emotions shared in these lyrics. So hopefully you enjoy it. You'll be the first ones to hear it on this podcast. I'll put it right at the end of the show. Enjoy. Hopefully, I got some new updates for you guys in regards to Theory 6 very soon, some new songs. Hopefully, they'll be released on Pandora and iTunes and Spotify, all the places you can stream it. And hopefully, I'll be releasing music on a regular basis again. And of course, if you like the intro song, it's called The Ripple Effect, like I mentioned. You can find it on all the places you can get digital downloads or stream music. Just look up Theory 6, The Ripple Effect, and you can find the song. I also have a link to Theory 6 music on my website, therippleeffectpodcast.com. And that's it. Enjoy this amazing conversation, then enjoy this amazing song at the end of the conversation, and let me know your thoughts. Peace.
Yeah, I grew up in Ohio for like 18 years. Didn't do any stand up there. Um, but I really liked like creative writing and speech classes. My favorite things 'cause you make people laugh. Um, and then what happened? I moved to Colorado and basically I was working in the sewers and trying to get into tech at the same time. But I kind of had this comedy thing in the back of my mind, like maybe. Um, then I took like an improv class when I was in the sewers, so that kind of broke me into being on stage. And it was like I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, once a week, so nothing crazy. And then at the same time, I found the Norm Macdonald live podcast on YouTube, and so I was listening to that like every day. It was my favorite thing in the world. Um, and then I figured I should maybe I'll try an open mic. Um, and I I was, absolutely terrified of fairly socially anxious person. So um, I kind of tricked myself into doing it. I called my buddy and said I was going to do it kind of like as a joke, like what if I did it? And then he wanted to come watch, and I was like, no, you can't. Well, nobody can see this. Um, anyways, so then I got to the mic, and I was like, okay, I'll just watch the open mic. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just put my name on the list, and then when they call me, I'll just run away. And then I was like two people up, and I almost like passed out. I was just like so nervous, my image fade to black. And then they called my name, and I went up there, and I did like 2 minutes um, of just kind of one-liners, kind of like Norm Macdonald blue card jokes, but my own jokes, but kind of that style. And then just kept going. Um, and then the pandemic hit. Um, so I had to stop going. That was in Denver, so everything was shut down. Started up again a couple months later and just have been doing it ever since. Um,
So you've been on Kill Tony before? Is that what you're referring to?
oh no, no, this was just my first open mic that I
Oh,
did.
okay. First time doing an open mic. Okay. Because I am always stunned by how many people use Kill Tony as their first time to go on stage. I was just watching a episode last night with my wife. Kids fell asleep and we stay up and watch some stuff. We're having a glass of wine. And we're just getting a crack out of it because it's like, he's asking, like, how long you've been doing comedy? He's like, oh, this is the first time. And it's like, seriously, like one of the biggest stages in the comedy community right now is Kill Tony. And that's where you choose to bomb for the first time. It's like, it's pretty wild. Like when you see that, what do you think?
I mean, maybe if you're just gonna do it once, like as a bucket list thing, maybe you would do that. But yeah, no, I mean, I took like years before I even wanted to take the risk of signing up. You wanna do good.
Yeah, well, it is nerve wracking because sometimes you don't know if somebody is better than maybe what we're seeing because they're just so nervous, and it takes, and I guess that's a part of the whole process. I mean, that's why stand-up comedy is probably one of the hardest arts to get into, because it's like you're feeding off the crowd, and you don't know if something's going to work until you do it. So that anxiousness and that, that fear of like, okay, in my head this sounds great, but then until you put it out in the universe, you don't really know how it's going to hit. And then, so when you write, do you do a lot of like open mics, and do you do a lot of your writing like on stage, like you're just kind of bouncing ideas while you're on there on stage and kind of like just trying new things? Or do you do like a lot of like actual pen to paper writing, and that is really where it originates?
It's kind of it's kind of both, and it's still like a work in progress. It's like I don't have the set process, but yeah, I mean, like one-liners, it's mostly written off stage, and then kind of other things. A lot of it, yeah, I found it just messing around on stage, and then yeah, just listening to recordings of sets and going through them. So it's kind of like a little mixture of all of it. Still trying to figure out the most efficient way to come up with new stuff.
Some comedians will say like you have to write. As hard as it is to like actually sit down, because you might sit there and get writer's block, and it seems like a complete waste of time. But I guess if you can utilize both methods, I guess it's even better, because I think there's something nice about being on stage, because you are getting immediate feedback, and kind of, if something hits or something does really well, you're like, okay, let me hold on to this. Let me expand on that. But writing is good too, because you have time to kind of reflect on things and brainstorm. So I think it's probably good that you're kind of utilizing both methods. Who you mentioned Norm? Who else was like a big influence of yours? And have you always been into like comedy movies and comedy just as a genre in general?
Yeah, so Brian Regan was the first guy that I heard, and he's still one of my favorites. And then a lot of Louis C.K. When I was in maybe seventh or eighth grade. And yeah, I think I always liked comedy. It wasn't as popular back then, so all my friends or cousins, whatever, would be playing Xbox, and I'd be just watching Louis C.K. videos. Um, so yeah, I've always been kind of into funny stuff.
Would you be considered like the funny guy in your group of friends, like in your circle? Are you the guy who kind of cracks jokes and bust balls?
Sort of. Uh, more of the punching bag.
You can take a
Uh,
joke, yeah.
yeah, I can take it. So I hate conflict, so I just use humor to diffuse it.
That is the origin story of a lot of comedians, right? Like they're either insecure or they've dealt with some trauma, and then that's kind of their way of dealing with it, is like kind of laughing at it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I probably fall into that category.
Yeah. So it's like for people who are watchers of Kill Tony, but they don't know the whole process. Like, how do you get into the bucket? When you go in the bucket, like, what's the chances of you actually being pulled? Like, and then were you hanging out during the show? What happened after the show? Like, did you get to meet other people that are on the show? Did your Instagram page blow up some of your socials? Give us a little bit behind the curtain, I guess, insight on like your whole POV perspective of like, okay, the whole process and what happened, and the aftermath of like, hey, did you actually get some extra attention and what? Hopefully you did, because I know like the second I saw you, I'm like, this guy, he's got it, because it to me it was like a Hetchberg Mario had a baby, and it was like you had like this like if Hetchberg was Italian, that's like, because it was kind of like, it was clever, it was sharp, it didn't even seem like you're playing a character. You really just seemed like a little like, because Hetchberg always seemed like he was like he didn't really love the spotlight, and that's kind of like the feel that you kind of got. You're like you're up there, you're doing it, but you don't like love the attention. And then also because I think Tony asked you this on the show, how long have you been doing Tony Pepperoni? Like, so you've been doing comedy, and then when did you transition into, and what sparked that idea of coming up with a character? Sorry, I gave you a lot of questions.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I guess. Well, coming up with Tony Pepperoni, that was I was doing comedy, maybe 2 years, and then I like moved to Austin. I was writing new jokes, and they weren't working at the open mics, and the open mics didn't have very big audiences, so I couldn't really tell, and I was just getting bored. I was like, this is retarded. Let me just go up there and act like, you know, a moron for 5 minutes and just have fun. And so Tony Pepperoni, Mamma Mia, I was like, that's so stupid. Let me just go do it. And so I just did my whole act, as Tony Pepperoni, and it did way better than, being myself. Um, at least with those jokes. So then I just did it at the next mic and the next mic and the next mic, and here I am 3 years later, something like that,
And do you think
still doing it.
because you're doing a character, it's almost easier to be silly?
Um, yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I mean that wasn't like thought out. Like I didn't think that to myself. I just thought, um, how retarded would it be if I just said "Mamma Mia" after every punchline, even if the joke sucked. And so that's just how it started. And then eventually I started buying shirts, and chef hats, and mustaches, and it all just kind of came together organically. Somebody's like heckled me when I was saying "Mamma Mia," they'd be like "Papa Pia," and I was like, "Shut up." But then it dawned on me that maybe everybody should say "Papa Pia." That was a huge breakthrough, changed my career.
Isn't it amazing how these things happen though? When hard work and luck cross path, right? That's when magic happens. And you've been working your ass off and you've been throwing stuff out there, and then something as silly as, and it's funny how you like changed the situation. You went from like I'm being heckled to like, hey, you know what? Let me actually utilize this. If people want to say this out loud, why not use it a part of the act? So it is funny how things just turn out that way. It's because it is a funny. The whole character is hilarious. It's hilarious. It reminds me of Halloween. Like anytime I would go out with my buddies on Halloween, everybody was like really outgoing and silly. Because how can you take somebody seriously when they're wearing silly outfits? So it seemed like my buddies who were going up to girls, they would be more open to like chat and like talk and just be friendly. I would pick up on that. I'm like, like typically girls wouldn't be this outgoing, but when you're wearing an outfit and you can't be a jerk or be a snob when your cat ears on and a tail, it kind of made me think of like your character and how when people have these characters, Andrew Dice or whatnot, like where when you're on stage, because it's not you, you're playing this character, you can be a little bit more silly. You can be a little bit more ridiculous because it's like, well, it's not me. So I feel like, I'm not going to be getting critiqued. It's the character, so you can kind of just be outrageous or whatnot. You've been on Kill Tony once till now, right? So how did that whole process go? Like, you felt comfortable enough to like give it a try. How do you sign up? And how do you, where do you wait? Like all these things that I guess maybe the average person who watches the show might not know. If you don't mind sharing like your own personal experience.
Yeah, so um, a lot of people sign up every week, maybe for years, and they don't get pulled. So um, I was I signed up for a little bit, and then I took some breaks, signed up again. I was always nervous to get on. Um, but yeah, basically, I was kind of like, all right, let's just go for it. And I started signing up. weekly again. Um, didn't think I was going to get pulled. Um, I was sitting there. I was about to go take a dump. Called my name, and there's like 200 names in the bucket. So, and they're going to call maybe five people. Um, so they called Tony Pepperoni, and then we're all in this bar across the street from the mothership. Just a bunch of all comedians, um, you know, 80% dudes just hanging out in there. Um, and then they called Tony Pepperoni, and then everybody started chanting Papa Pia, which was I didn't see that coming. That was pretty nice to have that energy going in. But I was like, having a heart attack. I didn't have my outfit on. I was carrying it in my chef hat 'cause I don't like to wear it off stage. It's too shameful. So we're on our some guys taking me across the street to the mothership. We go through the alley, back door, and then I'm standing behind the curtain. On the other side of the curtain is the desk with Tony Hinchcliffe and Guess and Brian Reban and whoever's on stage in front of me. So I think Keith Cortez was on stage at the time. So I'm just back there, and they're telling me what to do, how to come out behind the curtain, what to do with the mic, uh, and I'm throwing on my pepperoni shirt. I'm ripping out my electrical tape, taping on my mustache. I hear them on the other side of the curtain talking about a fake mustache that Keith brought. So that was just like, is that going to help me or hurt me? I don't know. Put on the chef hat, and I'm just standing there. Ari Shafir walks by. I screw up the the dap. So already I'm like, oh, I'm blowing it. And then William Montgomery walks by, and then they open the curtains, and so he's just staring. He's right across from me in this super tight space, just laughing like maniacally. It was kind of funny. I think he saw how nervous I was, and I was dressed like a pizza man. So he's just like, so this is just like all blowing my mind. And uh, then they called my name, and I walked out there, and it was absolutely terrifying. It was like a dream. It doesn't feel real. It feels like a remembering a dream, just like from this dark to bright lights. And then I tell the first joke, and it did. People were laughing. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna work. And then I just, yeah, did my set. The interviews, the scariest part. I thought that my set would go over well, but I was very terrified of the interview. But then for whatever reason, everything worked out like perfectly. And then I accidentally told them that I'm a rapper or that I rap, or whatever, which you know, I write some raps sometimes. I'm not a rapper. So then when they start playing a beat and they make me freestyle, I was um, very close to pulling an 8 Mile. I couldn't think of any lyrics. I was about to joke, and then, managed to rhyme pepperoni 5 times in a row. Eventually found the beat. Got to shout out my t-shirts. Um, and then it was over. So I go out, a couple people shake my hand, like a couple staff, and then they push me back into the alley just by myself, which is kind of funny. It's like going, like everybody's kind of cheering and clapping, like a whole room of people, and then I'm just in the alley by myself, dressed as a pepperoni guy. You know,
That is hilarious because that's like you go from this incredible high of being like the center of attention to feeling like trash, like you're just being thrown in the back. That is funny. So how many when you sign up for the show? Like, did you already have which jokes you're gonna do? Did you write new stuff? Was it stuff that you knew was gonna work? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, like I would try to have like a I try to plan that minute, you know. So I had these jokes picked out beforehand. And they were, they usually did well. Um, so yeah, those were the kind of the top jokes that I figured would. There's a couple more jokes that I wanted to throw in there, but it ended up working out. Um,
Well, what was
yeah,
hilarious, and it's like, and then they asked you what your real name was. She said Anthony, and it was, I laughed so hard because I'm like, this could not be more perfect. I'm like, this, everything just is like, just hilarious about the whole character, who's playing the character, right? Anthony is playing a Tony Pepperoni. Like, it was perfect. And then your interview and your stand up is very similar. Like, you could tell, like, who you are as Tony Pepperoni. There is some, you see some similarities between like who you are as a real person, right? Like that, a bit like anxious, a little bit, uncomfortable, a little bit, right? And I mean, I guess how can you be on stage and not be uncomfortable? I mean, I've seen some people on Kill Tony not uncomfortable because they're just like, I don't even think they understand where they are, or like, I mean, some of the people who put their names in that bucket blow my mind. I'm like, you really had the balls to come. I'm like, you thought this was going to work? I mean, some of them are crazy people. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about comedy. It attracts all different types of people, from like, meatheads to jocks to, class clowns to people who, are a lot of people with like mental illness or trauma or physical, issues. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you're not limited by finances, physical ability, IQ, like any of these things. Like, if you like to laugh and you enjoy making people laugh, like, you can get into comedy. There's no restrictions, and I think that's what makes that one art kind of special and unique.
yeah, for sure. Everybody likes to laugh, and it's great with the internet because it's like uh, there's like a niche for everyone. Kind of, you just got to find it.
Yeah, I mean, comedy's
Maybe
a
not everyone.
no, I think, there's I'm really into like different types of music, industrial music, heavy metal, metalcore, new metal, rap, whatever it may be. And I'm mostly a metal and electronic music guy, but you find some like artists that does the most experimental, weirdest music, and they have a huge following, and they found their niche, they found their community. So I think comedy's the same thing. Like, one comedian's not going to be funny for everybody, and then other people are going to absolutely love it, and music's the same thing. Like, I hate country. I know a lot of people who love country, and I don't get it. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, it doesn't hit me, it doesn't affect me, I don't get a emotional response from it. But I'm like, hey, but it's for somebody. And I'll listen to some, metalcore song, and for some reason, I get a emotional response. It hits me emotionally in some way, and somebody else listens to it and they're like, I don't get it. I don't know why you like it. So it is funny how we're all like antennas, like picking up different waves, and different things will attract us. So after Kill Tony, did you see any extra attention on the socials or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I had about 1,000 followers prior to Kill Tony. Um, now it's about 34,000.
Wow.
So I guess that doesn't happen uh, for everybody. Um, but for some reason, uh, like I don't think the interview could have gone better. But yeah, I just watched it. Like 7,000 followers first day. I'm like, this is amazing. This was, totally worth it. And then it just kept multiplying. I was like, what the hell is happening? Um, so yeah, bunch. It's kind of weird. Uh, Going from 1,000 to 34,000. I don't even know what that means really. I'm just like, okay, guess should try to figure out what to do with this.
So I guess that's the next question. Like, so what are you planning on doing after? are you just going to keep doing what you've been doing to get you here, and that's doing as many gigs as you can do and keep writing and keep doing that type of thing, going down the road and seeing where things pan out?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, I don't know. I have different ideas for now. I'm just trying to um come up with a good hour of comedy that I'm really, you know, psyched on. Um, and just kind of try to keep the growth going, trying to get better merch, maybe some bobbleheads, maybe some pizza cutters. So I'm trying to figure out all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, followers doesn't equal money. So I'm also trying to figure out, okay, how can I start making money with what I have right now so that I don't have to, you know, spend my precious time at a 9 to 5 somewhere. Um, so that's kind of uh, a little bit of the stress and the pressure right now is trying to figure that out, um, which is a good problem to have, I think, just to have the opportunity for that to be a possibility of being able to, you know, survive based on comedy alone. Um, so yeah, just trying to figure out how to, you know, how to provide value that people want to pay for, whether it's buying a t-shirt or just, I don't know. That's as far as I got.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you just got to keep doing it, right? Because, like I said before, like it seems like when you talk to people who have made it to the top of whatever they're doing, it's hard work and a little bit of luck, right? And it sounds like your story, you've had a little bit of both already. And I think if you keep working at it, you're going to continue to have a little bit of both. And, you know, the difference between somebody who succeeds and somebody who fails is the person who succeeded never gave up. I call this podcast a ripple effect because I truly believe we can all start a ripple. We all can have a bigger impact than maybe we believe we can. And this show has kind of become that. It's become an example of that. Much like yourself, I mean, I'm a Portuguese immigrant, came to America young. I played music growing up. That was kind of like one of my first real passions and love. And I loved basketball and soccer, but I'm like, I'm never going to be a professional athlete. I just got into it too late and just didn't have the physical attributes. And then so everything kind of like fell apart when I became an adult. And I'm like, now I'm just working a 9 to 5. And I'm like, I'm just pouring concrete for a living. I'm like, and I hate my job. And I feel like I'm doing something with no purpose. And I don't feel fulfilled. I'm not really that happy. You're kind of, you know, like the song, you're working for the weekend. You're basically just trying to get through your 40 hours, your Monday through Friday, just to kind of get a little bit of happiness and fun in your during your weekend. But then you could start all over on Monday, and it just didn't feel truly fulfilling. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me start this podcast. I already have a studio. Let me start this podcast. And little by little, it just grew. And you know, you would hear stories about like the average podcaster does 7 episodes or 10 episodes, and I'm like, okay, well then if I just keep going at it and like let's see what happens. The story of a podcaster, it's a lot like the story of a musician or a comedian. It's like you just gotta keep doing it, keep pouring your heart into it, and then eventually, hopefully, things will fall into place. I'm much like yourself. Like when I started getting people on, like, you know, I've had Jim Brewer on, talked to Roseanne Barr on my other show, The Union of Unwanted, which I co-host with, you know, Sam Tripoli.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Sam's my co-host on the other show. We do the Roundtable show, The Union of Unwanted. And that's another thing. I'm like, dude, I'm a nobody, and I'm like, I co-host with Sam Tripoli. We have Roseanne Barr on. I've talked to John Stockton. I've talked to Jim Florentine. I've talked to, you know, and it's like, who am I to like ever be in a position where I could talk to all these people that have done some amazing things, and the most amazing thing I've ever done was talk to them, you know. So it's so you go through a little bit of an imposter syndrome a little bit, you know, or at least I have, and but you know, you just keep working at it, and one thing that I'm sure you're going through a similar thing where like when you work the 9 to 5, you feel unfulfilled. But with the comedy thing, if you find that passion, that thing that you love, even when you're not making money, you just feel happier and better because you're like, I'm doing something that seems more important and more fulfilling. And even if I haven't succeeded yet, like I remember like, my first couple podcasts, every time I would stop the recording and I would upload, I'm like, wow, like I feel like I'm doing something. Like I haven't accomplished anything. Like I didn't have many downloads or anything. I mean, it was just like friends and family that were listening. But I'm like, but I feel like I'm actually doing something of purpose. I'm doing something, and it's same thing with you. Like as you gradually grow, like you're making people laugh and people are going to connect with you and you're going to find your audience and you're going to find, and you just keep going at it. But the comedy world, much like the music world and podcast world, it keeps evolving quickly. I know you talked about merch and like, trying to capitalize on like your social media growing and all this stuff. Do you think that that's kind of what new and upcoming comedians are doing now? Like they're not just focused on just because back in the day, it seems like comedians to grow, they would just keep doing gigs, network with people, doing gigs. So a lot of their growth came from like physically being out there and doing. Do you think now a lot more focus and attention goes into like, online presence?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, I didn't know how it was going to work. How do you go from, open mic comedian to successful comedian? What's that path? It seems it's I don't know for sure. It seems like there are a couple paths. Seems like you can be like a door guy at a comedy club, uh, feature for a big headliner and tour with them, or yeah, you can build an online presence. Um, and for me, I'm kind of the someone who's wanted to have that kind of, I guess, control of my own destiny. So if I can, build my own following, you know, and not have to rely on anyone, that's more ideal, especially because I'm not great at networking. That's not my like specialty. Uh, so yeah, I think, and it is kind of like it's weird. Yeah, you got to learn how to, at least what I'm trying to do right now is learn how to freaking do basically digital marketing. So it is kind of a job, but it is kind of cool because it is tied to, a passion. Um, so yeah.
I know you have a big Instagram page. I'm assuming you have a YouTube channel, Twitter. Are you utilizing all the social media platforms?
I gotta step my game up. Instagram's definitely been the focus. There's some YouTube. I got 3,500 subscribers. Just can't complain about that for sure. Uh, but yeah, my TikTok is my Twitter slacking. Yeah, so I gotta try to figure all of this stuff out at the same time, um, which is it's been fun. I'll probably look back on this part of the journey and be like, "Hey, that was a pretty cool part." But right now I'm definitely in it. Um, trying to trying to figure it out. Um,
Isn't it amazing how when you find something that you love, no matter like how much work it is, it never feels like work. Like you enjoy it. Like you like putting in the hours and taking the time to, build your social media, writing, all that type of stuff. I think it was Rogan. Somebody said it. They're like, find that thing that somebody else would consider work that you consider fun, and that's your thing, right? And there's some people who my dad loves pouring concrete. I mean, to him, it's like he probably would be doing it on the side, even if he wasn't doing it for the living, and a lot of other things that I do, he would consider work. So yeah, I mean, finding that niche, finding that thing that you enjoy, and that's I guess everybody's goal and everybody's dream is to do something that they love doing and hopefully make a living doing it. Have you looked into like clips, like doing clips, and because I know obviously clips are a really easy way of trying to get something to go viral or get some attention, and it sucks too because all the algorithms aren't really organic. Like they're so manipulated that you're always curious on like, okay, how do I get the attention of the algorithm? And it's hard, and it's hard, and then sometimes if you spend too much time trying to figure out like what's gonna hit, is it really organic anymore right now, or are you just trying to give people what you think they want instead of just doing what you want to put out there?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's, because I've always wanted to make like comedy skits. But now there is kind of like a pressure of like, if you're not putting stuff out consistently, the algorithm's not going to catch it. So now, maybe I'm putting out stuff that that I wouldn't have put out, um, or things that I don't think are ready, kind of maybe it was like 70% of the way that I wanted it to be. And so, yeah, it is kind of that question of quality versus quantity. Um, but then you hear uh, some metaphor I heard it was, I think Alex Hormozy talked about this. Um, he's a big uh, YouTube guy. Um, Basically, like uh, there's like a pottery class, and half the class was like, okay, you make one pot this semester, make it as perfect as you can. The other half of the class is like, you make a new pot every single day. Um, and then at the end of the semester, the group of people that was making a new pot every day ended up with the better pot than the one person who's trying to make it perfect. So that's kind of, I guess, how I'm trying to approach this. Um, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so it was kind of hard to even start. Like I only started posting stuff maybe um, uh, 3 to 4 weeks before I got on to Kill Tony, which was kind of providential in a way. Um, because otherwise, if there's nothing to see, then nobody's going to follow you. Um, uh, what was the question?
No, well, that was, I mean, you kind of hit on it. Have you ever like messed around with like Opus clips or any of the AI tools to try to make your life a little easier?
I did for a little bit. Um, I couldn't get it as good as I wanted it to be. I might revisit it. Um, because I definitely think, in my personal opinion, it's probably better to learn some of these AI things and um, use them now, uh, just to have that. It's kind of it feels like when the internet came out, it's like whenever Dan Cook took advantage of MySpace when it first came out. Um, so it seems like AI is kind of that new thing, that can give a little bit of an advantage. Um, but there's so much. It's like there's so many different tools. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's just like experiment. That's what I'm doing. But yeah, Opus Clips. I've used AI to make like Tony Pepperoni songs, which have been fun. Um, so yeah, it'd be cool to use AI to, even if it's just like a really stupid, dumb Tony Pepperoni animated series that was just made by AI. Sometimes the stupid things are what work the best for some reason, especially with something like Tony Pepperoni. So I might see what I can do with that. It's all kind of, there's so many different routes, um, unlimited options. So I don't know.
Yeah, AI is crazy because in a way it's like super scary, but it is a tool that it's like, okay, well, it does make my life a little easier. I can use it for thumbnails. I can use it for all types of stuff. And you aren't restricted by your ability to use like, or to play an instrument, for example, like whatever your magic. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was in line waiting to pick up my kids at school. And one of my clips that I use on TikTok, I was looking for music for it. And then like I kept getting copyright strikes. So I'm like, why don't I just use AI and make a song that I know doesn't, isn't going to get me a copyright strike. So I did, and it was like super easy. I forget which website I used. So I'm like, I'm in line, and then I'm like, hey, I wonder if I could take like lyrics from an old song and just put it in there, and it'll just write me a song. So while I'm in line waiting for my kids, I put in lyrics to this song I wrote years ago called Enough. And by the time the kids get out of school, I'm listening to the song. And the kids get in the car, and I'm just like laughing. And they're like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "This is my song, I guess." I'm like, and they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I just put lyrics in to put in like the type of style of song I wanted, and it came up with this pretty badass song." And I'm just listening to it. I'm like, "This is was so easy that I'm like, how do you ignore this?" And as a creator, as somebody who you and I and people who like to use imagination, creativity, like knowing that like the boundaries to what we can do are now like getting scarier because now like if you can think it, you can create it, and it doesn't require endless. I remember the first time I did like a intro video for my podcast, the amount of software learning I had to do and the amount of like hours I spend trying to get this intro. It's actually the intro that's playing right behind me. I've been using it forever, and I'm much like you. Like I'm a perfectionist, so I'm like I'm not gonna update it anytime soon because if I do start updating it, I know it's gonna consume my life for like months, and I won't release until it's perfect. And I won't sleep, and I'll spend all night thinking about it, how I should change this and change that, whatever. And you're right, like that will drive you crazy. I've had all that remains guitars Mike Martin's on, and Burton C. Bell from Fear Factory, one of my favorite bands growing up. And you talk to all these musicians, we always like joke around about like when do you let it go, right? Because you'll listen to a song in my computer speakers, and I'm like, oh, it sounds pretty good, but oh, that kick drum's a little high. And then I put it down. And then I listen. I'm like, oh, let me see how it sounds in my car. Oh, but in my car, it sounds like the guitar's too loud. And then you could just drive yourself nuts, constantly trying to like perfect it. And eventually, you just have to be like, you know what? I've done enough. Like I just have to let it go. I think that's probably one of the hardest parts of being a creator. Like you were saying, like you need to put out quantity, but if you put it out too soon, you're gonna put something out that you don't love. It's gonna be out forever. I have the problem with my podcast where like I remember years ago I was trying to put out a lot of podcasts, and I'm like, I'm watering down my podcast because by the time I do a show, I haven't really reflected on much. I haven't experienced that much. I don't really have a lot new to talk about or to explore or whatever. So I'm like, now if I have like time to like reflect on things and watch new documentaries and listen to new music and go on new life experiences, I'm like, next time I do a podcast, I'm like, I'll have something fresh and something new to put out, right? And I always joke around with Sam Tripoli because I'm like, how do you do so many freaking shows? He does like 100, he does this show with us, he does doom scrolling, tinfoil hat, he does all these shows, but for me, it's like I don't know if I could talk that much. I would feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, and I would have to like give myself some time to think about things and reflect on things and live a little. So it is a battle, as content creators, I guess, for lack of a better term. Do you attempt to put out as much as possible, or do you just put out something when you feel like it's right? That's an internal battle, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like content creation. Is it really like it feels like maybe it's not exactly you can't be as creative, at least for me, I can't be as creative as I would want because the algorithm is like, at least right now, the way it works, at least from some videos I've watched, it's like they want to see same kind of format, the same kind of, for me, it's like a 10-second one-liner. Those videos will get the most reception. Um, but I want to make, other stuff. I don't want to just make those, but it's almost what you got to do to grow um, your social media is not exactly the same as the art that you want to create, if that makes sense. It's like at least that's how I think it works right now, but I don't know. I'm still pretty new, so it's all experimental. It seems like just got to find that one lane, and maybe it's about using the social media to gain the audience and then putting the art somewhere else where they can find it if they want.
Yeah, it's like giving a little bit of both. Like, okay, put out something that you enjoy and you're proud of, and then also utilize people's short attention span and maybe make some short clips or make, some things to utilize what is trending. But it's funny because it's always like people who go against the grain. Like you can get popular for now or you can get popular forever. And you look at the people who go against the grain, right? So Rogan always talks about how he was told over and over again, nobody's going to listen to a 3-hour podcast. No, and he's like, I don't care. I'm just going to do what I enjoy. I enjoy talking to people in long form conversation, much like myself. I like talking to people in long form conversation because if you have ideas that you're challenging or exploring, it takes time. And or you have a personal story, like you don't want to rush them. You want them to go into all the little details of their personal story. And I think people enjoy that. And he was told over and over again, and he just kept doing what he loved. And when everybody else was doing what they were told, he was doing what he loved. And eventually he broke through. And there's music's the same way. Like when I was growing up, Slipknot was really big, but Slipknot came out of nowhere. Like they wore masks. There was 9 of them. There was 3 drummers. There was a DJ, a keyboardist. Like nobody knew, what they looked like. It was dark. It was and it was so different, and it was so outside the box thinking in regards to that band that everybody was talking about them because everybody's like, holy shit, this is different, right? So it's like, and it's same thing with music. You look at like the metalcore scene, the bands that like, oh, metalcore is big, so let's just sound like every other band that's big. Or, you go back even further, like hair metal bands, right? Like, oh, there's tons of hair metal bands that were just did the same thing that everybody else was doing and probably made a living a little bit, but we don't know their names. And then the ones who did it because they loved it, Iron Maidens, the whoever that are still playing, those are the bands that stood the test of time. So that's always like the concern is like as an artist, like you can chase the popularity right now, or you can just say, you know what, let me just do what I love. At least that way, if it doesn't succeed, I can look in the mirror and be like, I enjoyed what I was doing, instead of like spending too much time chasing the algorithms and what's gonna hit. Because I find myself doing that sometimes, like thinking about like, hey, if I have these type of guests on, or if I focus on these type of issues or topics or whatever, maybe I'll get a little luckier with the algorithms. But then I'm like, but I didn't get into like I knew that maybe there's a possibility I could make money doing this. But if I didn't, I was okay with that too, because I got into it because I loved it and I enjoyed it. And then if money came afterwards, great. If it didn't, I was still going to do it for free, and I was, because I enjoyed it, and the financial gain wasn't what, motivated me to get into this. Because similar to comedy, like it's really hard to make money in podcasting. It's really hard to make money in comedy. It's like if you get into it because you love it and you just keep pursuing it, hopefully the money, everything will fall in place, and hopefully the money will come. And you have a great thing going on. I mean, it's hilarious. It's different, right? The name is catchy. You hear the name Tony Pepperoni, you'll never forget the Tony Pepperoni name. It's like everything seems to work, and I have no doubt that if you keep going down the road that you're going, and you keep putting in the time, that regardless if you have the you spend all this time with clips and whatnot, I think people will migrate towards you, and you'll just keep growing. And so are you living in Texas now? Are you or in Austin near the mothership? Because is that where that episode, are they all now at the mothership, the Kill Tonys?
Yeah, 80 and 90% of them, I think. I mean, they still do arenas, or sometimes they'll do other states. But yeah, home base is here in the mothership. And yeah, I live in Austin here. Um, so I was living with my parents in Colorado, and then I moved to Austin to kind of start my own life. And then my dad got a job in Austin, incidentally, and then I lost my job, so now I'm back in their basement, uh, hypothetical basement. Um, but it's nice to have family around. Definitely can't complain too much.
When I was growing up, I didn't move out of my parents' house until I got really serious with my girlfriend. And my girlfriend, or my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she moved out right away. She's Italian, but she's kind of, I always make fun of her. I say she's Olive Garden Italian. She's a couple generations away from the family that actually came from Italy. But I'm like, why move out? My mother does my laundry. She feeds me even when I don't want to be fed. As long as I'm respectful, I can come in and out as I'd like. I'm like, why would I want to move? Like, I don't see what, just the sake of saying I get to move out. Like, so to me, it was like, it was kind of weird. Like my Lebanese friends, all my friends that were like immigrants, Salvadorian friends, Estonian friends, like they all kind of lived at home until they started their own family. And like you said, it is kind of nice to have that flexibility where like, hey, I can pursue something, and God forbid if something goes horribly wrong, I have somebody will help me out. And that's kind of a good thing. That old saying, it takes a tribe. If the tribe takes care of each other, everybody looks after one another. I think that is something we're missing a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Um, yeah, I kind of got lucky with that Kill Tony episode. I mean, it was, you know, they want me to have a job, but I managed to sell enough T-shirts to justify uh, doing comedy by itself. Uh, as long as I can.
You got some gigs this weekend? You got anything you wanna promote, or is there any places that you've been going to that like people can maybe run into you there, and some spots that are maybe you're a regular at?
Yeah, I'm at shows all around downtown Austin. Tonight I'll be in San Marcos. I don't know when this episode comes out. Uh, and then I'll be in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wichita, Kansas. Um, Kansas City, Kansas on October 16th, and Wichita on the 17th and 18th of October. Um, so if anybody's in there with those areas, uh, come out and see. I'm going to do a longer set there. So,
Yeah, and
uh,
look into Opus Clips, man. Like the AI, when it first came out, I started using it because I hate listening to myself. So listening to a whole podcast again to find a snippet, like it's torture. I'm like, you might as well waterboard me. Like it really is like, I'm like, I don't want to have to listen to this. And then you'd go like 10 minutes into the podcast, you're like, oh, this is a good clip. I'm like, oh, let me keep listening. And then and next thing you know, you spend 3 hours to find a 1 minute clip, in a 1 hour podcast. And I'm like, this is not a productive way of using my time. I just want to talk to people, and I don't want to have to do clips. But it's, at the time I was kicked off YouTube during COVID. I got kicked off YouTube. So I'm like, hey, let me just have a presence on YouTube by at least starting a clips channel, and hopefully some people organically run into the show. But Opus Clips, you'll put a 1 hour podcast, and it'll, I can put keywords to look for or whatever, and it gives me clips whatever length I want, and it'll give me like 30 clips, and they'll rate them based on like how viral they can be, on how informative they are or whatever. So they'll have a rating per each clip, and then you can add AI music, AI thumbnails, AI B-roll. So if you're talking about something, you can create B-roll. It's pretty cool. It almost has made creating clips fun. You can mess with it and create AI B-roll and music and all this stuff. So it's almost like you're making a short little film. So it has made life a lot easier. So I know as like a comedian, if you're doing a whole joke or a whole set, you can just like upload it from Rumble or YouTube, put it up on there, and then it'll give you some clips to share. And then you can even link it to your social media platforms, so it can automatically share them right from there and whatnot. So it is pretty cool. And AI is scary, but it's hard not to utilize its capabilities, because it does. One thing you can't make more of is time. It's not as time consuming doing a lot of these tasks as they used to be. So
yeah, yeah, AI's the deep platforming is a little scary because it does seem like what's to stop that from happening again. It's like what's to stop that from happening to even AI platforms. But I also know that there's some kind of AIs that you can get that are like personal. You can keep on like a hard drive or something. So that'd be cool to kind of figure out, I guess, AI tools equivalent to maybe like a Rumble or something that's where your stuff's going to be safe, even if it's not as um, uh, popular, doesn't have all the same tooling as the most, used thing. Um, so that's another thing that's like in the back of my mind, but I'll probably not look into for a very long time. Uh,
Yeah, I mean Rumble is needed because we need. I mean, I just got a strike again on TikTok today. And I when I started a TikTok account, it's because I had a lot of listeners that are like, "Hey, you should be on TikTok." A lot of young people are using it to get information. I'm like, "Sure." So I took all my YouTube clips and put them, just uploaded them onto my TikTok account, and like half of them got flagged. And I'm like, so it's even stricter than YouTube. And the stuff that I put on YouTube, because I was already removed off YouTube, I put up stuff that I thought was like kind of YouTube friendly, things that didn't really go too extreme. So that way people can get like a teaser, and then they can, if they want to listen to the whole show, they can download it or watch on Rumble or any of the other platforms. So I'm like, they're all YouTube friendly. And then TikTok now is censoring even worse than YouTube. And so that is a concern. I mean, hopefully comedy, it's like the one place where it's like, okay, you're telling a joke. And if it's funny, like, again, this is where that whole freedom of speech conversation becomes important, because it's like that Patrice O'Neill Fox News segment. Remember when he was, do you remember that? When he's like, when I say something that could be offensive, I don't know if it's going to offend somebody until I say it. If the origin of this joke is to be funny, then that's what's important. Like, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just trying to be funny. And if it's not funny, I don't know until I say it. So it's like you have to give people the freedom to do that. And that's why I always loved comedians that would, push against the grain. And like, back in the day, like Daniel Tosh, some of his jokes would really cross the line for some people. But I'm like, that's what I love. I'm like, I want stuff that will cross the line, because life's too fucking crazy to not laugh and make fun of it. And if we can all kind of laugh at each other, we're all going to get along, because we all have stupid things about our cultures or communities or personally ourselves. And if we can all laugh at that, then it kind of puts the guard down, right? And so that's really important. Is that so? That is something that you think about in regards to when you do jokes in general, when you're writing your jokes in the back of your head. Do you ever think like, hey, maybe I shouldn't cross this line because it could get me censored, or it could be unfavorable to the algorithms?
um, that definitely comes into play. Like it came in more early on in my career. I was a lot more like, am I gonna like get shot for it? You know, uh, everything kind of scared me to say. But then eventually, after doing it, it became less scary. And now the same thing with posting stuff. It's like, okay, um, there are some things that I haven't posted because I'm like, I don't know if this will um, affect the algorithm negatively or get me flagged or something like that. Um, that hasn't been like a huge issue yet because um, essentially when I'm posting like a stand-up clip of a joke I tell, then it's like um, I don't have unlimited jokes at this point to just kind of throw away. Um, so it's not been a huge concern yet. Um, but yeah, it's definitely good that there's definitely like a thought of mine when I was initially trying to figure out how to go about social media. It's like, all right, I should definitely put everything onto Rumble. Because I started comedy right like a month before COVID hit. And then you just see all these guys just getting taken off and taken down. It's like, what the hell is this? Um, so, you know, they're letting people back on now, but it's like, okay, kind of already showed your cards that you're willing to do this. Um, so yeah, better figure out alternatives and backup plans. And um, yeah, so yeah, that's in the back of my mind. It's not something I'm uh, actively doing at the moment, but it's definitely it's something I got to eventually figure out.
And that's the sad part, is that even if they're not censoring us, they're subconsciously affecting our content creating, right? Because it's like now we're second guessing what we should or shouldn't say, what we should or shouldn't post. Even when I was getting strikes on YouTube during COVID, I had Dr. Peter McCullough on, Robert Malone on. I had all these guys on before Rogan did. The day that the Dr. Peter McCullough episode dropped, the Rogan one, I actually had him on Union of the Unwanted show with Sam, Charlie, and Midnight Mike. The concern was like, oh, we're gonna get censored. People can't hear these voices. And then you talk to a lot of people in the community, and they're like, they would use code words for vaccines and code words for this and I'm like, you know what? If I get kicked off, I get kicked off. Luckily, the nice thing about podcasts is that you can still get a podcast RSS feed and get the content directly from the content creator. You can bypass a Spotify or iTunes or whatever because you can get the RSS feed. You can use like a Podcast Addict or some podcast app, get it right from the RSS feed, so you can bypass any of that stuff. But there's a lot of people who were making a living off YouTube that were scared shitless. They're like, hey, if I get kicked off YouTube, like, I don't know how I'm going to make a living. Friends of mine, like Ryan from The Last American Vagabond, he got kicked off PayPal. He got kicked off, same thing with James Corbett from the Corbett Report. Like, got kicked off this, got kicked off that. Like, it has a real economic effect on you. And some people are like, I have kids, I have bills to pay. Maybe if I just self-censor a little bit, that's kind of the world that we don't want to live in. We want people to have the green light to say what they want, do what they want. And if you don't like it, you just flip the channel. That's what I always say. I'm like, I don't ever leave anybody a negative comment or talk shit about, somebody's podcast or comedy or music or whatever. I'm like, I just move on to the next thing. There's plenty of content to consume. Why would I spend time putting somebody down? Plus, like we said in the beginning of the show, like, everybody has their own flavor. It's like, maybe it's not your type of thing, but there's somebody who's going to love it, hopefully. Why bash it? So, yeah, I mean, the world we live in is a little scary. And with like the Kimmel thing and the Charlie Kirk thing and all this stuff that's in the news of late, yeah, it's like, okay, YouTube is rolling back some of their censorship, but like, for how long? And what are they doing that we're not aware of? Like, what type of shadow banning and what type of content are they favoring? I had this guy, Dr. Robert Epstein. He's been on Rogan's podcast too, and he monitors all the tech companies, and he figures out how they're like socially engineering things and how they're trying to influence your decision making and your perspective by force feeding you certain stories and narratives and suppressing other stories and narratives. And they have all the scientists and psychologists are studying how exactly to do this and how it can impact your decision making in your life. And it's like, damn, man, like it's a scary world. And this is why we need Tim Dillon had a podcast. I don't know if you saw one of his recent podcasts. He was talking about getting fired from his gig in Riyadh. He could care less. He's like, I'm not going to self-censor. Thank God there's people who have FU money and FU influence and a platform where they can push back, because there's certain people that can't. The same thing with Rogan, right? Like, he's too big to censor. You can censor him, but people are still going to listen to him and people are still going to look for his work. And if he has to, people will go to his own personal website or whatever. We need that. We need people to have the freedom to say what they want. And that's really what freedom of speech is all about. It's amazing that people are now talking about, well, there's a difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. I'm like, no, not really. I'm like, freedom of speech is to protect unpopular speech, because popular speech doesn't need protecting. If I'm just saying what everybody else is saying, then I don't need protection for that. But I'm like, the people who are willing to go against the grain, we need to protect them, because those people exist throughout history for a reason. They're the ones who impacted change and whatnot. So yeah, it's a scary world. And that's something you don't even think about. Like you were saying, like, oh, am I going to get beat up for this joke? Am I going to get shot for this joke? If you offend a certain type of person or whatever, that's a real concern.
Yeah, no, and it's yeah, for me, because I'm most of what I'm doing is just very silly. So it a little bit, it calls into question. It's like, okay, is this pun worth the stress of the trouble I might get in? And so for me, I'm like, okay, uh, where you know what principles do I want to sit on? And at what point do I need to start, pushing back or putting my foot down? For 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 me, it doesn't seem like right now I'm saying anything that I would, you know, a hill to die on. kind of stuff yet. I don't feel like I want to get better at comedy before maybe I uh say unpopular truths. Um, I do a little bit of that, but nothing too crazy. But I'd like to think that, when I start doing that, I wouldn't let algorithms scare me out of doing it, um, or whatever, any trouble you could get in. But yeah, that is something. Also, it's like, okay, where's that line, and where do you start fighting back and putting your foot down? And maybe it is, maybe it is right now. Maybe I got to put the foot down on the silly puns that I'm doing. Just because, you're faithful in small things, you'll be faithful in big things. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. All these things are kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. So still,
Oh, we none of us do. I mean, but I do think the uncensored art and unrestricted art is the best art. Wherever your creativity takes you is where you should let it take you, right? You should never, restrict what you're doing because, and I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just saying in general. Like if you're a musician and you're writing about a very personal thing, right? It could be really scary to put it out there. Like, oh, people are going to judge me because I'm talking about being suicidal or whatever, a really dark time in my life. But then that's what connects with people. Or a Tim Dillon where he does cross lines and whatnot. But then that's what attracts people to him because it's like it's different. It's like he's not afraid of being organic. And I think that's also why podcasts blew up. And why comedy I think now is like growing again at an incredible rate because I think people are sick of the cookie cutter bullshit. And I think anytime it's so rare now to find organic voices, people who aren't easily offended, people who aren't afraid of saying things, that when you do find that, we celebrate it and we're attracted to it and we enjoy it because, the world is so full of fake nonsense. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Tony. I'm really, excited to follow your career and maybe hopefully talk in the future again and see how, what road you took and how you, all the different things as they evolve. And I'm glad that I got to have a conversation with you really early in your journey. And hopefully we talk again. And maybe I get you on my other show, The Union of Unwanted, in a future episode and hang out and chat and whatnot. And but yeah, so you told us about your tour, some shows you're doing of late, and then you also have some social media platforms. It sounds like you do have a Rumble channel, your Instagram page, obviously, and I'll put all these links in the show description. What other platforms are you on? You said you're sucking at some of the other ones, but are you on some of the other ones?
I'm on right now. It's just Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Um, Mostly active on Instagram, but gonna try to get these other ones going, including X and Rumble. Um, yeah, so that's all coming in the pipeline. It's all just Tony Pepperoni comedy.
Awesome.
Tony
Yeah.
Pepperoni was taken.
So yeah. Well, that's what I assumed when I saw Tony Pepper. I was actually surprised that Tony Pepperoni comedy wasn't taken, to be honest.
Same.
Well, I'll send you links to the show once it's up and live. I'll put all your links in the show description so people can connect with you. And thank you so much for taking the time, man. Best of luck with everything. I love seeing people pursue their passions and a little luck going their way, and hopefully more luck continues to go your way. And then hopefully we keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Thanks for having me. This is really awesome what you got going on here. So it's definitely an honor to be on this podcast here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tony. Hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You as well. Mamma mia.
See you, Tony.
I close my eyes because the truth makes them blind. 1,000 pages, a million are lies. I close my mind because the truth are lies. The rich pull the strings as the poor man dies. I close my mind. I'm a passing hour. God is money, and we are all martyrs. I say the words, they are redefined. I inhale the dark, I exhale the light. Close your eyes. The truth is, the truth are lies. Redefine.